Welcome back to Dan on Dev. Today we're going to start what is a 4-part series that I did with Eric Reiners. This first part, we're going to be talking about his journey across the software organization and kind of how he ended up going from his technical background and through Rapid7, where I worked with them, into BeWell. And so we're going to start off with that, and it's kind of interesting to see how his journey took him there and kind of how he's operated over the years. But anyway, we'll begin with that. And then we've got the next one is going to be about climbing the ladder versus effective impact. We've got how managers can help with code, and then how to maintain healthy developers. And I think it was a fantastic conversation. So we broke it up into 4 parts just to kind of keep it easy into these sections. But anyway, here's our first part. Today we are here with Eric Reiners. He's an amazing guy that I worked with at Rapid7 for, 6-7 years, and was part of our team. Was in the early conversations when we got acquired, as he was kind of leading the VM product, the vulnerability management product, and then was my boss for a period of time before he went on a journey that we'll talk about in a little bit. But Eric, thank you for joining. Looking forward to kind of catching up. So what I wanted to start with real quick is what you're doing now. Give us a little update on kind of what you're working on, and then we'll kind of back up and talk a little how you got there.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. It's good to catch up with you. And we've worked together for 6 or 7 years, I think, and actually done quite a few product launches and releases. And so we'll probably get into that later. But now what I'm doing now is actually helping people get more joy, meaning, and impact out of their lives using nature, nutrition, and neuroscience. So I went back to school, actually a non-traditional student, 30 years after my bachelor's degree, and I'm studying neuroscience at King's College London, and almost done with a master's degree in neuroscience. And I'm really excited about where, like in the early days of computer science, when, Moore's law, doubling the processor speed every 18 months. Right now in neuroscience, that's every 4 months. We're doubling the knowledge of the brain every 4 months. So it's this amazing rise. And I'm super excited about consumer technology, AI, and neuroscience kind of coming together to provide practical solutions to help people really realize their potential. And so using some of my corporate background and some of my, I've studied yoga and meditation for a long time. So I've got this interesting mix of East and West, and more of an engineering mindset. I'm kind of a hacker from the early days, and I'm really fascinated by what we can do with the brain and what's possible, what the potential is for teams and individuals to really achieve the most out of their lives.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was, for me, it was weird, switch, because I had seen you in such technical roles. You were highly involved with the vulnerability management product, right, our VM product at Rapid7, and knew the tech inside and out. Really came in, even when you were working with me, you were so quick at being able to get up to speed. So I understood your technical acumen was amazing, no problem there. And then you started shifting. It was interesting. You kind of went into the sales engineering org. I think, was that your first switch?
I did 2 years with working for the sales engineering team. Very customer facing. So as a products guy, I got to see that the product doesn't always work exactly as you think it will, and in security especially. So that was a really good experience to realize, hey, the product I've been building for 10 plus years actually doesn't quite perform in all the use cases that we thought. And that's when customer knowledge, it became clear to me that's and you've always been good at this as a founder, your early days in NTO, and I got to see you, what's the customer problem we're trying to solve? What are we trying to do? And so that was really eye-opening. And then I went on to IT, went in to become the CIO at Rapid7, which is also quite illuminating. And I treated that like a product as well. So how do you deliver services and capabilities to internal employees that are sometimes customer facing, sometimes not, but keep the lights on, keep it running? And the big observation for me there was it's kind of the same process. How do you build a great experience? But the IT team, often you only hear about it when something breaks. And so you get the outage notification, and the team is scrambling, and it's oh, there's an IT team. Oh my gosh, didn't know that we had an IT. But I think I had kind of a non-traditional path. I didn't go vertical. I kind of went all over the place and spent a lot of time in a lot of different orgs, and it was really, I think, beneficial for me to see different sides of the business.
Yeah. So, I mean, seeing you kind of moving into BeWell, like it threw me off. Like I was kind of, like I said, it was kind of odd to me because I was like, I expected you to kind of continue on a very technical path, and I really expected you to kind of be like getting yourself set up to be a CEO of a company, of a tech company in particular. But what I did see all the way through that, and being a direct report to you, I got to see it firsthand in how you kind of took care of your team. There was you did kind of look at everybody individually. You're very good at kind of like picking up. I would talk about individual folks on my team, right? And you would remember who I would talk about on this tech and that. So you really cared about the people, right? And I think we shared a lot of that, of really caring about the individuals. And they just weren't like head count, right? And you took that, and I saw there was individuals, somebody named this guy Dave, right, in particular, like the way you shepherded individuals like that I knew personally. I could see how you cared for your team and built them up and tried to like redefine what they did and give them a better purpose. So that part, when I started kind of digging in more, I was like, okay, this makes more sense, right? Because he's always cared. He's always cared so much about the well-being of his team and empowering folks to like go achieve, right? So
Well,
that was
an awesome compliment. Thank you. That's kind of the heart of everything we do. Is like if you're leading a software team or you're working for a software team is maybe a better word. But yeah, thank you for that feedback. The neuroscience part is I've always been fascinated by the brain and have done a lot of experiments on my own brain, clinical research on my own brain, let's say. I felt like I didn't know the neurobiology well enough, so that's kind of why I went to get the academic route, just to get a little better grounding. But I'm really fascinated by like how people adapt to stress and how they can live a healthy and sustainable life while still achieving amazing, audacious challenges. And I've had the pleasure of working on some pretty awesome product teams and just IT teams and security teams that, something happens that's greater than the sum of its parts and it's hard to define, but you get a team that's working really well and they're supported and they're creative and they're doing audacious things with a lot of autonomy. And, oh, look, I got some stars. I talk with my hands a lot, so that's going to happen. And so I was like, okay, why is that working? What separates a great team from a good team? Like, what's different? Is it just the individuals or is it how they work together? And so I started to kind of research that. And I've been burnt out a couple times in my own career. And I work with a lot of high performers that are, they've been really successful. They've had promotions. They make good money. They've got a title. And sometimes they're unhappy. They're dissatisfied. And the same achievements don't quite give them the same feeling that it used to. And they kind of want to go back to when they started their company and it was a real struggle, but that was their happiest time. And so I try to tap into that and try to help people. I'm a coach and a consultant and advisor as well. And so I try to like help people tap into that feeling again. And what does that look like on a team? How do you do that as a leader or a team member? So it's kind of an untapped area. It's relatively new in the corporate world where we think about, let's add 10% to the dev team and we'll get 10% more productivity. It doesn't really work that way. It is nonlinear.
Sure.
And there's a lot of neurobiology behind it that I'm trying to figure out. So
yeah, that's cool. And I bet your technical background helps you dig into the tech that's emerging, right? We were talking the other day about like even some of the measurement tools, as you kind of mix the neuroscience with AI. That sounds like it's been pretty fascinating.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff. You're IoT pretty well. So like there's all this amazing, the cost of manufacturing, the amount of processing speed you can fit into a small device. There's so much we can do now. Like an EEG that used to cost $10,000 is now about $400, and you can use it at home. And you can measure your brain waves and say, am I getting into an alpha state? Am I in a creative state for productivity or whatever? And so like that's super promising. What's missing, I think, is like the practical application and making it easy for people to use in their daily lives. So it's still kind of researchy. Like I use a platform called Neuroscience, which is a Silicon Valley company, and it's a really amazing EEG. It's like $800, and it's got a platform and an API, so you can connect. So I do dust off my coding skills occasionally for that kind of stuff, and I'm doing some brain control interface type things to see if we can you get a signature for when you close your hand? And what does that look like on an EEG? And then how do you control things in the real world with that? So that's kind of a fun little side experiment.
Yeah. But do you,
No,
so
I'm
do
kind
you
of getting
see?
lost there. What was your question?
Yeah. Well, no, I was just like, as kind of doing this neuroscience stuff, using your tech background, I'm sure has got to help, because as things come out, you're probably able to, like you said, you can tinker with this new thing and use the APIs because you've got the background.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I think so. I started as a C++ developer, then Java, and then now I'm mostly using Python for data science stuff. In fact, neuroscience is like a lot of data science because you get these fMRI scans that have huge amounts of data, and you have to process that, and Python's perfect for that.
so, I like to focus a lot on the engineers, right, and kind of leadership of engineering. So, as you're kind of looking at this and you're looking at high performers, the high performers you're looking at, are they like more athletes, executives? You get any engineer type of folks? Like, what's the high performers that you're currently dealing with the most? What's the kind of the profile that's more common?
Yeah, it's kind of broadening out now, but my initial kind of set of clients and companies were in cybersecurity and IT, typically technology companies mostly, and they tend to be CTO, CIO, VP of security, that type of role. So they tend to be running teams and have maybe a technical background. Yeah. So, but it's broadening out now. I find like healthcare is actually really kind of similar to cybersecurity and some of the stress and uncertainty and complexity that people are dealing with. And so that's an area that I'm interested in, and I have a few clients in that area too.
Okay, so that was part one. As we just kind of walked through Eric's journey, I appreciated his time. Next, again, we're going to go through climbing the ladder versus effective impact, and then how managers can help with code, and how to maintain healthy developers. Those will be coming up soon. I don't know if they're going to be all in a sequence. I might have other videos in between, but I look forward to kind of having you follow through this series. Eric Reiners is a fantastic person, and just thankful for his time. So anyway, thanks for joining Dan on Dev.